Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I am Penny Zhou, and I am the program manager of Microsoft. I have been in Microsoft data factory and big data area for over 6 years. I really appreciate all of you get up so early to attending our meeting. Thank you so much.
Hey, and good morning, everyone. My name is Wee Hyung. I run products for Data Factory, which includes Azure Data Factory, pipelines in Synapse, as well as Fabric Data Factory. Right? It's really exciting to see everyone coming bright early in the morning, and hopefully have a good session, and we can all learn together.
All right, so we're going to talk about the data integration evolution, independent of vendors, and then focus on Data Factory in Microsoft Fabric. We're going to have some demos for you. We're going to do a recap of data flows and pipelines for those of you who may be new to it. We're going to have more demos, and we're going to talk about the announcements. And there's going to be some giveaways, and we're going to put some polls up for them, and I'm going to give you some hints to where to pay attention for the answers. So when Wee Hyung asked me to do some research for this presentation, I looked up evolution, the data evolution, and one of the first things that came up was the hieroglyphs. So believe it or not, one of the first tools that humans used to collect data was hieroglyphs, and then manual data entry for years and years. So does anybody know what TPS reports are for? Anybody remembers what TPS reports are? There you go. Okay, so you win a water bottle. Come close and get your water bottle. So the data integration evolution started with manual data entry, and then in the mid 20th century, we had the batch processing with the invention of mainframe computers. Then ETL came around somewhere in the 70s. I'm a 70s person myself, so I'm proud of ETL sharing the same decade with me. But ETL gained real momentum in the 90s with the invention of relational databases, and it made it possible to collect data from various sources and put it in one central repository that we all know as warehouses. Then move on to the 2000s. That's when we had the internet became very popular. So all of a sudden, all the businesses wanted to have their data in near real time. Then came cloud computing. With it brought flexibility and scalability of cloud computing, followed by big data. So there was all of a sudden a lot of data everywhere in different shapes and formats and with different velocities. So move on to the 2010s. That's when we had the APIs. With the RESTful architecture that came along, you had to support application programming interfaces for software systems to talk to each other. And then self-service came along, and that made it possible for business users and analysts to work independent of the IT organizations to do their data integration. But with that comes data governance, so that you have a lot of people working in self-service. Hand in hand with that, you have to have data governance. And then finally, moving on to the 2020s, we have the rise of machine learning and AI that bring the innovations, but also they work as a huge productivity boost to everybody who's developing. You have all seen the Copilot everywhere, helps you to be much more productive and develop much faster. And then streaming data set and multi-cloud support, that takes us to today. So looking at the same journey with Microsoft data integration tools. So the first thing that I remember is DTS packages. I don't know, did anybody here work with DTS packages? Okay, great. And I don't know if it does. Anybody remember anything before DTS packages? Store procedures, maybe? Right. Okay. So you're a wiser person than me. I don't remember anything before then. So then came SSIS in 2005 with SQL Server 2005. And then we had Power Query and Power BI. So we have them grouped together because some debate going on in the community about which came first. So we didn't want to get into those arguments here. So you have Power Query in Excel, and then Power Query and Power BI. Both of them are data transformation tools. After that, we had Azure Data Factory and Data Flows Gen 1 in Power BI, followed by the next tool, which is going to be, any guesses? What was the tool that came after Azure Data Factory that provided pipelines and data flows? Synapse Analytics, yes, in 2019. And then after Synapse Analytics, we go to Fabric. So this is the point where we go from platform as a service to software as a service in Microsoft Fabric. So we're going to do a quick poll here to get some of your ideas. So what we want to know is that what do you think should be an ingredient of a modern data integration tool? So what do you think is important to you? What's critical to you? So we're going to pause for a moment. You can either type that address or you can do the QR code. All right, so we see some answers coming in. Very nice. I love how data is the center of it. Data integration. All right, amazing, amazing. So Wei Hong is going to take us to the elements of the modern data integration.
And thanks a lot, everyone, for sharing your thoughts. And we thought, when we think about modern data integration, what better way to represent ingredients of modern data integration, right, as a salad? I'm sure, everyone staying lean, staying fit is top of your mind. And so based on the poll, right, and of course we'll be asking the poll using the Hoover app as well, a lot of the ingredients of modern data integration are things that you're experiencing today. Whether it is, you have a business analyst that's doing self-service data preparation, whether it's in Excel, whether it's in Power BI. And one of the bread and butter of modern data integration is the ability to connect or to ingest data from all your favorite data sources into where you want it to be, and at the same time be able to transform them. And as we deal with small data, medium data, big data, you want to be able to transform them with efficiency and scale. And of course, finally, you want to load them, whether it's to a lakehouse, to a data warehouse, or any of the targets of your choice. And I think one thing as you go to many whether it's understanding what are the data assets that you have, and so on and so forth, right? And yesterday in one of the sessions, you also saw how we, work with some of our partners to be able to make sure that you're able to build compliance as part of your ETL process. And central to all of this is really metadata, but also being able to have a data catalog, right, that makes you to be able to discover trusted data sources, understanding the lineage, on how data arrives and how it lands in your reports and so on and so forth. So thank you, everyone, for sharing about your ingredients for modern data integration. We'll post the result of the survey on LinkedIn as well as on Twitter or X later on as well. So let's move on. And so as we think about the ingredients of modern data integration, and we think about what we saw at the keynote yesterday, Microsoft Fabric is a unified data platform for the era of AI. Right? And if you look across, and just as a recap, I'm sure you've seen this slide N times during this conference, is that the way we look at Fabric and central to Fabric is one lake. Right? One lake is your OneDrive for data. But more importantly, once you have data that's in one lake in an open format, which is Delta Parquet, you would have different kinds of experiences or workload on top of it for you to operate on the data. Right? So if you look at the top row from the left to right, of course, bread and butter to any analytics discussion is really you want to bring the data to where it's needed, and so on. And so Data Factory provides you with amazing capabilities, where Data Factory in Fabric, we brought the best of Power Query. How many of you are Power Query users? Awesome. And we brought the best of Azure Data Factory into one single product, right? And if you think about it, this is really a continuum from your citizen developers to your pro developers. And of course, through Fabric, we want to make sure that we deliver it to you in a consistent interface, if you will, right? And so Data Factory provides that. And of course, if you go from left to right, you have your data engineering experiences, whether it's with a notebook and so on and so forth, or your data science experiences and so on and so forth. And of course, many of you would already have started and experiencing some of the amazing progress we made in data warehousing, real-time analytics. Many of you are part of our MVP programs, the enterprise voice program, and so on and so forth. You might have seen some of these real-time analytics capabilities that we have started showing you. And of course, key to all of this is Power BI. And you might also have played with Data Activator as well, right? And if you look at the bottom piece of the stack horizontally across, co-pilots in Fabric exist across all the workloads, right? And so today we're going to show you co-pilot in Data Factory, and I'm sure in many of the other sessions, you see all the different co-pilots as well. And of course, as we saw the ingredients of modern data integration, we want to be able to integrate with Purview, right, which is a data governance solution. And of course, what you see at the bottom is really all the unified experiences that you get today. And so if we take that and we dive deeper, what is Data Factory in Fabric, right? And as part of the Data Factory team, what is top of our mind every time we get into planning, we get into discussions, and we get into, hey, what is the future of data integration at Microsoft, right? And the way we look at it is really very simple. Of course, you have data, and we're continuing growing the number of connectors that you have, you need in order to connect to all the different data sources, whether it's a relational database, whether it's an API-based service, whether it's any of these SaaS-based services out there. And we want to continue growing on the number of connectors. So anytime you have a connector that is top of your mind, and you felt like we did not have it, we would love to work with you, right, in multiple ways. One is we do provide a connector SDK that allows you to extend. And so if you are ISV or independent software vendor, and you want to build connectors to your respective data sources, you could use our SDK to be able to build it. More importantly, get it certified by Microsoft, and it appears in all our assets, and other people can use it, right? Or you could say, well, for any of these connectors that's top of your mind, you could always submit it as an idea in the ideas side as well, right? And as part of planning, we take a lot of time thinking through all these ideas, and the top ideas that emerge usually become features in the product that we share with you at a conference like this. Now, the other thing that's top of mind that's really exciting this week that you heard at the conference keynote, amazing integration point that's all built into Fabric, leveraging multiple capabilities in Fabric. So of course now we covered data. And why is data important? Because we want to turn raw data into value. And so we see Data Factory in Fabric as really delivering three fundamental pieces: to be able to transform and deliver the data where you need it, to be able to orchestrate but also enable you with automation, whether it's through developer APIs or whether it's through DevOps like CI/CD and so on and so forth, all built into Fabric. And one thing that the team spent a lot of time thinking about is metadata. Now, whether it's metadata about your data sources, metadata about your destination, how you're transforming the data, we think that is important because that is going to power a lot of many experiences that will help you to be more productive. And today you're going to see a demo on the first part of Copilot in Data Factory, and of course with more exciting news along the way as well. And finally, why do you do all of this? It's really to get it to value, right? To be able for us to be able to realize the business value in your organization. Now we dive deeper. We look at all the connectors. This is just a subset. Now this chart and subsequent charts that Shabnam is going to show, anytime you see connectors, remember to take a photo or remember because it will get you the grand prize at the end of the session. So it's a very important slide.
Yes, the Meta headset, VR headset, is going to be about the data sources, so pay attention.
And the point here is bread and butter to any kind of data integration tooling or offering is connectors, right? And trust us, we spend a lot of time thinking about connectors, making sure that you have the connectors delivered to you securely, right? And making sure that you're able to connect to all your favorite data sources is on us, right? And one thing that we get asked a lot is, are these just Microsoft connectors or non-Microsoft connectors? And you'll see that, whether it is read or whether it's write, today we include both Microsoft connectors that allows you to write to things that's on Azure or on premises like SQL Server. But we also include a lot of non-Microsoft connectors like Oracle, Teradata, Snowflake, and many of them as well. And what is also interesting, which you might not be aware, is that many of these major data platforms that's out there, right, there are non-Microsoft specific sources and so on and so forth, work very closely with us because they want the best connectivity to the data platforms. And so we have connections all the way up to the exec level, right, on discussions around how we can integrate better together. And it is a win situation for everyone and it's a win situation for you as well, because then you have the best connectivity to any of these major data platforms that's out there. Now, we talk about connectivity with the Connector SDK. You have not heard of it. We did have a session yesterday on how you could build your own connectors and get it certified. And the last piece of it before we leave this slide is really the fact that whether your data is on premises, whether your data is behind a virtual network, or say an Amazon VPC, or any of this, where you need data to be moved securely, we want to enable you to connect to all this data in a secure manner and to make sure that data move within secure networks so that your data is protected. And so with this, we talk a lot about what is Data Factory, what are the components of Data Factory. We're going to switch to Penny, who's going to show you and get everyone up to speed. If you have not seen data flows, you have not seen pipelines, this will be a recap demo, and you probably have seen this a few times in this today, especially rendered in Penny's version of it. Right, so let's give Penny a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. Today, I'm going to show you how to use data flow and data pipeline to build a powerful and comprehensive data solution. So this is the homepage of our data factory, and we will start from creating a data flow. People are familiar with Power Query will appreciate the familiarity of the low-code experience provided by Dataflow Gen 2. So now we are going to see the connectors. Do you know how many connectors in Dataflow Gen 2? Oh,
So pay attention to what's on the screen, okay?
Far more than that. You should pay attention to each connector of this screen. The big price headset will be related to the connectors. So over 180 connectors is in Dataflow, can help you ingest from different sources. So this is an existing Dataflow Gen 2 with 3 tables imported, and the sales LT customer is from the lakehouse table. I have a customer list table in my local file system. I just need to drag and drop. Oh, immediately I was bring to this page, and my local file is uploaded. And I can also preview my data before I start the transformation. So after that, all my data is bring in, and I can start the transformation at a scale. So because I want to focus on the customer data for my Power BI report, so firstly, I will combine these 2 customer reports together. Simply, I just need to use the merge query provided by Dataflow. Click on merge query, and I can choose the query and the column that I want to merge on. Immediately, the query has been merged. I can see all the customer list columns has been here, and also with the sales LT customer nested data in the new column here. And with the aggregating and appending table, we can also do the group by for more transformations. So in group by, we'll group by the age of some data, and we can add some columns for the new column. After that, we can see a new transformation just added, and we can see the result has been grouped by. So with the power of the data flow, we can also set the output destination to store our transform data. So we will set the warehouse as our destination. And let's connect to our existing warehouse. And then I can choose my destination, like warehouse and the table.
And this can be any warehouse. It doesn't have to be the warehouse that's in the same workspace.
Yeah, all the workspace warehouse can be selected. After that, my data flow has been complete, and I can also easily change my data flow name to get start data flow. And after changing name, I just publish my data flow. Then with that, my data flow has complete. So we can also start from the data pipeline part. With the data pipeline, actually you can do a powerful and rich data ingest and data orchestration at the enterprise scale. And we will also do more explore using data pipeline to ingest some data from your existing address SQL and someplace. So here is my lakehouse. So I want to use the data pipeline to ingest the data into this existing lakehouse to help me update my sales LT customer data and also import some data. I only need to create a new pipeline here. Immediately, I will be brought to the copy system page. And the copy system empowers me to quickly copy from Stafflow data source from the address SQL DB to the lakehouse. Let us choose my existing address SQL database. And I can also choose the table that I want to import, the sales LT customer table, and other tables. When I click on the tables, I can also preview data to know more. So let's set our destination as a lakehouse, and we will choose the existing lakehouse that has sales LT customer data. And I will append the data to the sales LT. With that, I have all the information of I just did in the summary page. And it's just like magic. I did it so simply to ingest data.
It is very simple. Even if you're new to this, even if you don't come from a data factory background, this is very easy to do.
Yeah, and data pipeline also provides a library of activities, enable users to do more sophisticated orchestration. I will use data flow activity to connect the data flow we just created to transfer the data in the lakehouse. And we can also take advantage of Teams activity. So we can let Teams activity to help us send notification about the status and data that we run in the pipeline. After I log in my account and allow access to Teams activity, I can set a logic in my pipeline. Firstly, I will load the data into the lakehouse after data, and then I can use data flow activity to do some transformation on the data. After that whether it's success or failed, it can send notification to Teams. You know, well, in a demo, it will be always succeed, right? So when a data flow succeeds, we will let it send notification to Teams. So in Teams activity, it really provides very intuitive experience. You can choose send to group chat or channel. We will send to group chat. And you can also customize your experience by using so simple and intuitive experience in the message part. So we want to set our pipeline run ID, and you can add some dynamic content using a system available here, shows pipeline ID. And you can also send the pipeline name. It's also available in the system variables. You just click it, it's in it. And it's powerful. You can also choose the output of your activity. We have the copy activity, data flow activity, so we can send the output to the Teams notification. I will choose center data flow running execution time. So I choose the data flow activity in here, and I append the execution duration. With that, it's done. We're already set up, and we can just run the pipeline. Then it's success. Thank you.
Okay, so for those of you who are new to Data Factory, I just want to give you a quick recap of what you saw. So we have data pipelines and we have data flows. So with data pipelines are a tool for orchestration. So think of them as SSIS in the cloud. So you get a canvas, and then you chain your activities on it. You have control flow there. You can copy data. There's many activities that come out of the box, like Teams, sending emails, and much more. And one of the activities that you can put in the pipeline is a data flow. And I know the names are close to each other. So this is what a pipeline looks like. We can have several activities in it. This is similar to what Penny showed. So you can copy data, then you can call a notebook to do some more data processing on it. You can call your data flow from a pipeline, and then you can send an email. And you see on the right-hand side, I'm showing you some of the other activities that are available. And then data flows. So data flows, they're a data preparation and transformation tool. That's where you get the power of Power Query in there, and you have the nice graphical user interface to do your transformations. So how many of you come from a Power BI background? Okay, so this interface is very similar to what you have in Power BI. And for those of you who are coming from Data Factory, it's also very easy to pick up this new interface. So this is not this is an evolution of what you had in Power BI, Power Query. This is the best of what Power Query had and Data Factory. One thing that's different here, I just want to point out, so this is Data Flows Gen 2. What you had previously in Power BI was Data Flows Gen 1. One thing that's different is that today, if you load your data into Data Flows Gen 1, that's where the data stays. You can refresh data sets or models from it, but this is different. With Data Flows Gen 2, you can, once you have your data, you can land it in a lakehouse or in a warehouse. So this is better than that. And so with Data Flows Gen 2, you have over 180 resources available. So this is where we're going to do one of our first giveaways. So pay attention to what's on the slide. I actually went through all of the connectors. I pasted them all next to each other. So this is what you see today.
Big prize is here.
And this screen is missing 2 of the data sources. So there are 2 data sources that are missing. Okay. So here's a poll. So can you spot the 2 data sources? And the hint is, don't look too hard. There may be nothing to begin with. That's your hint. That's your clue. So we're going to wait till a little bit later in the presentation, and then we're going to announce the winner. So when you do the poll, we're going to have the names, right? So whoever guesses first. Here we go. Your second chance for the last look.
When you do the poll, remember to put your name as per your card or your badge.
Your badge. We need to have your real name.
If you come up, right, we'll make sure that we tally it, and that's for the grand prize, right?
All right.
And for those, sorry?
Oh!
Yeah, we as you submit the poll, right, we have your name as well as your answer. Right, towards the end of it, we'll announce and then we'll give away the prize.
Yes, you have to stay till the end. You can't get the prize now and leave the session. Sorry. Okay, so pipelines and data flows, when to use what, right? So you can use both of them to ingest data. You can ingest data with data flows, you can ingest data with pipelines. Pipelines are what you use to orchestrate your workload. And then with data flows, that's what gives you the data transformation power and capability. So this is just to summarize and put them next to each other. All right, so with that, Weihong is going to talk about the AI capabilities.
So when we started, we talked about ingredients of modern data integration. And one of the things that you saw was really AI-powered experience, right? And I'm sure today, top of all our minds, and in fact, sometimes when I go home and I talk to my kids and my wife, who are non-IT, AI is top of their mind as well, right? They'll ask me about, Gen AI and so on and so forth. And so I think AI is so important today, and I'm sure, we all know the potential and the opportunities it offered. And one of the things that we keep thinking about is how can we infuse AI experiences into the product beyond just Copilot? And one of the things, for data integration in general is today we spend a lot of time, bringing data in or integrating data, if you will. And I still remember, prior to DTS days, as Shabnam was mentioning, I was writing a lot of Perl scripts to be able to integrate data as well, right? So I'm sure we all have our experiences, we all have our better wounds, if you will, right, integrating data. And and what is the maturity of AI today is really the key to automate a lot of these tedious tasks. And so from an AI power experiences perspective, the way we frame it within Data Factory in Fabric is really two parts to it. One is we want to infuse AI into every single layer of Data Factory, whether you're using a data flow, whether you're using a pipeline, or you're just using Data Factory in general. We want to make sure that you're more productive. Now, of course, we're not fully there yet. We have spent a lot of time working with our Microsoft research colleagues on bringing some of the technology from a technology called PROS, or programming by examples, or programming synthesis by examples, right? And be able to use that as a way to learn from examples that you give the tool, and the tool will then output, in this case, steps or queries, or steps in a query for data flows, right, to help you automate some of these tasks. We're not going to show some of these demos today, but it's essentially ability for you to say, hey, if you're scraping data from the web, if you have unstructured text, which is not CSV or tab delimitator and so on and so forth, you're able to give examples and teach the tool to say, these are the data that I want to extract. The tool would then generate the necessary data integration step that then you can operationalize. So that's the first piece to it. The second piece to it is we also realize that, well, a data integration tool allows you to orchestrate multiple steps, or data steps, if you will. And as one of these steps, you might want to be able to integrate with the Azure AI platform, whether it's with OpenAI or whether it's with some of these very powerful Azure AI services like Form Recognizer and so on and so forth, for you to extract this data using our AI services, and we provide you with integration point that allows you to connect with Azure OpenAI and many of the Azure AI services in the tool itself, whether you're using data pipelines or whether you're using data flows. And this afternoon, there's a session that's covering that specific part of the AI power experience. Now, one of the things that we're going to show you in a demo just in a minute, right, is Data Factory Copilot. And as you saw, right, in many of the Microsoft products, Copilot is so important. But more importantly, it's important not because from a strategic perspective. It's important because it makes all of us to be productive, right? And what you see today is just one part of the Data Factory Copilot experiences, where it allows you to automate a lot of these very common tasks that you have performed in data flows generation tool, and be able to make it better, or be able to do and have someone to just talk to, because data integration can be a very lonely exercise, right? And so we'll see some of this in action, and then without further ado, we'll hand it over to Penny. And this time around, we're going to do a live demo, right? And so please pardon us, right, if some of this live demo doesn't go as well as needed, but let's give a round of applause to Penny, right, to show us the demo.
Thank you. It's my first time to do the live demo. I'm so excited, but I also hope there will not too many surprises for me. And before I start the demo, I want to ask, how many of you have tried Copilot? Oh, awesome. Yeah, so today we are going to introduce the Data Flow Copilot. We want to explore how can we use the Data Flow Copilot to enhance the productivity and creativity when we author in Data Flow Gen 2. So here is an existing data flow that we have created in previous Get Started demo. And we want to build a more powerful and complex transformation based on this existing data flow. As I want to focus on the orders data, so firstly, I want to join these two orders tables together. It's really simple. You can see this is a Copilot icon here. Just click it. I can interact with the Copilot. Please help me to create a new query that joins these two orders table. Then I just send in the prompt. After that, I can get the query that the new query will be generated to combine these two orders table. And I found there is a column called order date. And when I check the format, I found it's daytime time zone, which is not the correct format I want. I want to change it to daytime. How can I do it? Ask the Copilot. So I just need to type in, please transfer the order date column type to daytime format, and send this request to Copilot. Immediately, I can get a result. The Copilot just provides me the answer by adding a transformation in this query. So it can help me change the order date type in here. We can check. It's already changed to datetime format. So Copilot really make it easy, help us to changing type, the renaming, the ordering, the group, and a lot of complex transformation. Now, I know many of you are have some background in Power Query. So imagine you are having a very complex Power Query project inherited from your previous colleagues. So you have a lot of tons of Power Query you need to understand in that project. It must be a headache to understand so many complex Power Query, right? It may also span several ways for you to understand this query. But with the power of Copilot, it's easy. It can make you just understand all the queries in several minutes. You just need type in here or use the prompt, describe this query. It's simple. Then use this prompt to ask a Copilot. Then immediately, it can help you to generate his understanding on this whole query. He can break down his understanding to the description of each step, like in the overall, the orders or data. Actually, we have two steps. The first is to join the two tables, and the second is change the data type. It just shows the explanation with a very clear description. And now, I have a question. How many of you are familiar with SQL? Oh, cool. Then I have a very exciting feature I want to share with you. You know, today our Dataflow Copilot already can well understand the SQL language. So it will be easy for you to use Copilot to translate your existing SQL query project and just sending the SQL query project to Copilot. It can just work as the same as the Power Query that you have in the Dataflow. Like in here, I can ask the Copilot, like, please help me transfer the following SQL to M, and actually you can share the SQL of the SQL query in here, and send this prompt to Copilot. Immediately, you can get a result, like this query has been generated, and it successfully helps you to transfer your SQL queries to the actions that exist in the Dataflow query. So it's like a magic. You can just do it as a very simple way. And with the Copilot, it can also empower you to do some tedious tasks, such as generate the very comprehensive tables with a lot of multi-columns. I can ask the Copilot, like, please help me to create a calendar that starts from 2007 and goes to current date, includes lots of columns, and you can do to devise my data. Just after send this prompt, and Copilot is working on that. You know, immediately you can get this result out. The Copilot has helped me to generate over 35 individual steps to achieve this function. Imagine, it helps us to save a lot of work. Maybe if you build it manually, it takes you several hours to do it, but using Copilot, you can do it just in several seconds. And Copilot really help us to simplify our daily work and make our life more intelligent. Thank you, everyone.
Now we've shown you, and we did a recap of what data flows Gen 2 and pipelines, right, is in Data Factory and Fabric. And we've also shown you some of the AI power experience, right? And if you're interested to learn more about AI and how we're infusing AI into every layer of Data Factory and Fabric, this afternoon there's a session on just covering that specific topic, right? So we invite you to be there as well. Now the last piece of this presentation is really, in case you missed the keynote or the keynote flew by really quickly, and you were trying to get up to speed on, hey, what are the announcements that was made for Data Factory in Fabric this week. The next few slides was spotlight on some of the things that is top of your mind. And more importantly, right, these are some of the top ideas voted, whether it's through customers, partners, community interaction. And so this is just a quick recap, right, in case you missed some of the announcement. And there's also going to be a quiz at the end of it as well. Now, one of the things that we're really excited about, right, is VNet Data Gateway. Now, this is the Power BI VNet Data Gateway. And we announced general availability in February. And many of this came together to enable you to securely connect the data that is behind a VNet, right? And therefore, you could leverage your private endpoints, and more importantly, be able to move data securely between your source and, of course, landing in a target destination. Now, the next thing that is also one of the top asks, right, through all the enterprise voice, through all the customer interaction, whether it's online, offline, one of the top of mind is really to say, well, today we already have the gateway. And many of you, who has a Power BI background is already familiar with the enterprise data gateway or the on-premises data gateway that allows you to connect the data on-premises. But more importantly, you could install the same piece of software in any of the virtual machine, in any of the cloud, and you also get to be able to access data sources that is non-Microsoft specific and be able to move them securely. And of course, for those that are familiar with Azure Data Factory, you're familiar with the term SHIR, or Self-Hosted Integration Runtime, which allows you to do the same thing. And when Fabric came along, of course, one of the top of mind is the very clear feedback that we get from everyone is, I don't want to install two pieces of software on one virtual machine, because then I have to manage it, I have to govern it, and so on and so forth. And so one of the things that we spend a lot of time on, right, since Fabric GA last year, is how we can bring all this together so that to you, you just install one single piece of software, which is the on-premises data gateway. And whether you're using data flows generation tool, or whether you're using data pipeline, you would be able to connect to your data securely, and so on and so forth. And so this week, we announced a public preview. This is hot off the oven. In fact, the team was still going through the last part of the deployment over Sunday before we came down to the conference. On-premises connectivity, right, using the gateway for both data flows, which is already available, and pipelines. And so if you use copy activity, today now your copy activity in Fabric can now access on-premises data. Now, this is just a subset of the data sources that are supported. We're going to continue growing the number of data sources to the full set of data sources that you expect us to have in the next few months. Now, one thing that, for those that's familiar with the installation of the on-premises data gateway, you'll see this additional component, which is Microsoft Fabric. And when you install it and it says ready, it means connectivity is ready. Now, the other thing that we are really excited about, right, and you saw it, and you hear thunderous applause yesterday at the keynote, is semantic model refresh. Now, in the past, if you want to refresh your Power BI data set, now known as semantic models, you have to use other tools in order to do that. Now, today, with Data Factory in Fabric, this is all built in, and this is also fresh off the oven. This then allows you to be able to orchestrate a set of semantic model refresh within the pipeline itself, right? And more importantly, as I was talking to Shabnam as we were preparing for this presentation, sometimes in some organizations, you might only have a set of tools that's certified, and in this case, it could be Fabric. And you don't really want to use other tools in order to orchestrate this. Now everything is all built in into one product.
All in one place. Yeah, no more going to creating webhook or relying on Power Automate or other tools. It's all in one place, covered under one capacity pricing.
Now, the other thing which is top of mind, while being on the Azure Data Factory team for a couple of years, every time we get into a call, we learn about the kind of rich, complex pipelines that every one of you has built. And one of the top of mind that people have shared with us is that, well, as our pipelines get in complexity, if you will, or we want to make it more richer, to be able to orchestrate more things, I really want to bring everything together in a pipeline. And for a while, we have it as the limit, which is 40 activities per pipeline. And so one of the things that we're so excited about is we doubled the number of activities. And now within a pipeline, you can go up to 80 activities. And we're not going to stop there. We're going to continue listening to your feedback, right, and growing the number of activities. But as of this week, we 2x the number of activities available in a pipeline, right? Now, the next announcement that you might have missed as well is today you start the data flows. You could be using data flows for incremental refresh. You could be using data flows for doing your data preparation and transforming your data. And when you start the refresh of the data flows, you say, oops, I forgot about something. I really want to cancel the data flows. Or for a while, we could not allow you to do that. And therefore, it keeps running and so on and so forth. Now, cancel data flow refresh is now available as well. And today, any complex data flows, small data flows, big data flows, you could just cancel the refresh, and you only get charged for the duration in which, or the capacity is charged based on the duration in which the data flows run.
Like it happened to me, I forgot to enable fast copy.
Okay.
Yes, and then I had to cancel it.
Now, and the last piece of this, which is also shown in the keynote, and the keynote flew by really quickly, is fast copy. And for many of you that have been using data flows for a while, you might want to ingest huge amount of data in order for you to transform the data at scale. And one of the things that you notice is, of course, data flows generation 2, as it starts moving data in, it was not at the speed that you desire or the performance that you desire. That's one, right? 2 is one of the things we hear about, right, as we shipped public preview for Data Factory last year, was that, well, we now have the best of Power Query and the best of Azure Data Factory in one single SaaS offering. And so with that, we really want to leverage the best of it, right, to the point around bringing the best to you. And so why can't the copy infrastructure, which has evolved very strongly over the years with a strong momentum, be everywhere within Data Factory where you need to move data? And so one of the things that we did is to take copy, which was in pipelines, right, and be able to bring it into data flows. And so anytime you ingest data with data flows, you can enable fast copy. And when that happens, you get a dramatic increase in speed. And to one of the customers who shared with us earlier, is day and night difference, right? And more importantly, this uses the same data movement infrastructure that we have globally that move petabytes of data every single month, right?
Yeah, so when I first heard about the fast copy, my question was, how fast is fast? What do you mean by fast?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you all saw in the keynote, there was a video that showed the two side by side. So if you were paying attention, the regular copy took how long?
8 hours. Yeah.
8 hours. And the fast copy took, if you know the answer, don't say it out loud. So we're going to do another quiz here. So we're going to make a guess, because we're in Vegas, right? We're going to make guesses. So if you put in how many minutes you think the fast copy is going to take, the person who gives the closest number. So it's like 60. If it's 60 minutes, if you put 59, that's the closest. Or if you put 61, okay. The first person who puts the closest number is going to win this fabric-colored Lego Ferrari to take home.
And what better way, right, to demonstrate fast?
Yes,
with a Ferrari,
that's
right?
for fast. So we're gonna announce that at the end. So keep putting your answers in, and in case there's a tie, we're gonna go with alphabetical by first name.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I think for those that's looking for the QR code, ignore the can you spot the missing data source? That was from the previous poll. But the QR code is exactly the same. We've activated the new poll, right? So if you click on it, it's gonna ask you a question: how fast is fast?
Yes. And make sure you put your name in there.
Yeah.
All right.
And so as you click on the QR code and you think about, reflect on the keynote yesterday, and we actually forgot one thing. When we say how fast is fast, then as a next level of question would be, well, how much data are we moving? So it's how fast is fast grounded to moving 1 terabyte of data from ADL Gen 2 to the lakehouse. That's essentially what.
I thought you were going to say how come it wasn't fast from the beginning.
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, so make sure you have the QR code. You're responding to it. Now, the last piece to it is we just want to show you a demo, right? We cut a snippet of the demo that you saw at the keynote just to show you how fast is fast. And by then, I think we're going to close the poll, right? Because then you will also see the answer as well. So right now, what you're seeing is within Data Flows Gen 2, right, you enable fast copy. And then you also see that you now have this require fast copy enabled as well. Now, once that is done, we had the normal copy, which is normal speed in which you will move 1 terabyte of data from ADL Gen 2 to lakehouse. And then on the right, would be fast copy. Now, of course, this video is speed up, right, so that we don't have to spend lots of minutes here. And you'll see that fast copy, you can't use this answer right now because we will take the first come, first serve in the poll, right? In the past, it took probably 8 hours. And with fast copy, it took about 20 minutes. Now, more importantly, is that one question that we get asked a lot is, why do we have to go and enable allow fast copy? Why can't you guys figure it out intelligently, right? So the next step beyond this feature release is, of course, we're going to start thinking about, well, you might not even have to enable allow fast copy. We might want to figure it out intelligently underneath the hood. If we can use fast copy, we will use fast copy, right? And so these are part of the feature evolution, if you will, along the way. Now, just a quick recap right before we open for Q&A is some of the announcements this week. We spotlight some of this from on-premises data access for data pipelines, fast copy. We doubled the limit of activities in pipelines, semantic model refresh, cancel data flow refresh, and many, many more. Now, one of the things that's top of everyone's mind, which is also a top ideas as well, right, is incremental refresh for data flows. Now, this is in sneak peek, right, and in the next 1 or 2 months, or next few months, if you will, we will start making it available for private preview, and we'll make sure that we connect with all of you, right, in order to be able to let you try it out before we release it to the public. So I think with that, the last piece of the presentation is, well, we talk about everything in Data Factory and Fabric. And if you are a data flows user in Power BI, one of the things would be, well, how do I upgrade to Fabric? Or if you are Azure Data Factory customers or Synapse customers, how do I upgrade to Fabric, right? We have a session this week as well, but I just want to recap so that, it's in your mind after you leave the session. What are we doing from upgrade pathways to Fabric? First, if you are Azure Data Factory customers or Synapse customers, one thing that we hear a lot since last year is parity. Now, as of today, or in fact, as of GA, we have about 90% parity. Now, what are the remaining 10%, if you will? We remove some of the older activities, like USQL activities, and so on and so forth. Mapping data flows are not moving to factory in Fabric. And SSIS. SSIS is coming later this year. And we are creating ways in which you could move your mapping data flows into data flows Gen 2. Now, with that 90% parity, it's all based on telemetry on, hey, what are the top used activities? We think we're roughly there. Now, the second step to upgrade to Data Factory and Fabric is really the fact that, well, I have invested a lot in Azure Data Factory. I've invested a lot in pipelines and Synapse, or Azure Synapse, if you will. And I just want to simply switch my destination to be able to write to Fabric. And so one of the things that we had, which was announced last year as well, is now whether you're using ADF or whether you're using Synapse, you now can switch your destination to write to the Fabric lakehouse. Right? And within the next 1 or 2 weeks, you will also be able to write to the Fabric data warehouse. And therefore, to you, your complex pipeline that you've created, all you need is to switch the destination, and you'll write accordingly as well. One of the things that we hear a lot as well is there's still a lot of SSIS packages out there. SSIS package today have the flexible data destination. That will also allow you to write to ADL Gen 2. But after you write to ADL Gen 2, you could always do a shortcut, and you unlock all the engines in Fabric. Now, the first 2 boxes that you see here are all already shipped. You can use it today. Now, the next 2 boxes is things that we're working on. One is we want to allow you to just point to any of your Azure Data Factory. And just as on a Unix file system, you mount a folder, we want you to be able to mount your Azure Data Factory. And so you get to see all your Azure Data Factory in Fabric. You get to experience Fabric. And you get to a point in time where you say, hey, I am comfortable with upgrading. We will then have an experience that will allow you to upgrade, not 90%, but 100% of your pipeline into native Fabric pipeline, so that you get to enjoy every of the new capabilities that's in Fabric.
And potentially cost savings, because you'll be under the capacity at that model. So there may no longer be a reason for you to stay in Azure Data Factory or Synapse Analytics at that point from a cost perspective as well.
Sounds good. And I think that's it.
So
okay, and we get to the point where Shabnam is going to do the drum roll.
We get to the exciting part, yes. So the answer to the first question, the missing data source, is 42. No, it is not 42. The answer is blank table or blank query. So we have the name of the person who guessed blank query. Can you pull that up, Weihong?
Got it.
Garrett?
Okay.
All right, well, come on.
Let's give him a round of applause.
Feel free to come on. All right, so before we announce the second winner, make sure that there's several other data integration sessions remaining for this afternoon and tomorrow. So if you want to take a picture of the slide, if you're interested, if Data Factory is your main interest, make sure you check out all these other wonderful sessions. After the session, we're going to hang out for a while. We're going to be in the hallway if you have follow-up questions. But if you need to reach out the Data Factory product team for questions, their email is here on the slide. So you can connect with them using that email address. Also, a lot of us are going to be in the community lounge, in the Ask the Experts area. Feel free to stop if you want to dive deeper into any of the areas. And then finally, use the session, use the app, the conference app, to give us feedback. We value your feedback. It helps us to improve the future delivery. Even if it's negative feedback, we still love to hear it from you. So hopefully you like the session, but if you want to provide some constructive feedback, we love to hear it. All right, so let's see who won the Ferrari. Ron Rittinger? Yep. Here? All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right, there you go. You're welcome. All right, everyone. So that brings us to the end of the session. We have lots of Data Factory stickers here. Please come forward and take your stickers. And thank you again. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.